Welcome back in, everybody, for part 2 of our top 100 games of all time, according to IGN. Again, we're running through the list. This was just published today, and always interesting to look at these lists and see how they compare to your own. So I've brought in my own top 5 list. We've already cleared off 2 of those games. We had my number 1 game of all time, which was Baldur's Gate 2, came in on the list already, as well as Donkey Kong, which was definitely on my list at number 4, and Baldur's Gate was number 1. We've crossed those off. We're going to come across 2 more that are on my list in the top 40 here. And if you missed the first part, go check it out. Some good stuff on that list, but we're really getting into the meat of it here. This is the nitty-gritty, so let's jump right in with number 39. We have Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. An amazing game. I remember there was a lot of upset people when this game first came out. Of course, Metal Gear Solid was groundbreaking. PlayStation game, blew everybody's mind. Then they released the demo for Metal Gear Solid 2, which, again, you were Solid Snake. It was infiltrating a ship. Great demo, and then the game came out, and you were not Solid Snake. You were Raiden, and you played through this whole game thinking, am I going to be Snake at any point? Am I going to be Snake? No, you're not. I remember the end battle is the epic, like the Metal Gears are coming at you one after another, and you're just... great game, very playable, very approachable. I kind of still lean towards the first one as my favorite. It just has some amazing moments in it, and I do kind of lean towards that one. The Psycho Mantis alone gives my nod to the first one. Moving on to 38, we have Final Fantasy VI, also known as Final Fantasy III to us Americans. This was a game changer as well. I remember going to a friend's house when I was a kid and watching his dad play this game because it was so well done. It was such a good game. Literally watching his dad play it was just as much a thrill for me as playing the game myself. 38 absolutely belongs on the list. Mass Effect 2 makes it at 37. In the last video, I commented on Mass Effect 1 being a fantastic game and how much I enjoyed that. I've actually never played Mass Effect 2. These games are very time-consuming, and I play a lot of games, but that is one that has just not made it on my list. I can see the upside and the potential to it from the first game, absolutely. So, one of these days. 36, Pokemon Yellow. Boy, Pokemon was such a thing. Pokemon came after my time. When I was a kid, the card game that I played was Magic the Gathering. That was huge back in the mid to late 90s. Pokemon came after my time. If I was a younger kid during this time, I would have been all over it. Absolutely. I still see the upside to it. If it's your thing, by all means. And I think it absolutely belongs on this list for historical value. I remember the red, the green, the blue, the yellow, all of those coming out. I was working at the video game store at this time, and they were hot items. I wish I still had a couple of those copies sealed because I know they're quite collector's items these days. And so a Game Boy game makes the list. That's awesome. Fantastic. Number 35, The Legend of Zelda. So part 1, the very first Zelda game. I'm surprised it's not higher, to be honest with you. This brought the role-playing genre. Not true role-playing. I would still call this more of an action-adventure game than a role-playing game. But it really brought this genre, the style, the characters that we still know and love today to the American gaming public. And I spent a lot of time. I never beat this game until more recently. As a kid, it was not an easy game to play through. And even with maps and tips and tricks, and this was a playground discussion game. Did you burn this bush on that screen? Did you look what I can show you here? Come over to my house and I'll show you where I found this staircase. You can go up 5 times and find that dungeon. This was really one of the first games I remember being the playground education game. Like, let's talk about it during recess and find out what each other knows, and we will beat this game together, which is just awesome. 34, Bloodborne, more recent game, a game I am not familiar with, so I can't comment on it too much. It's a gothic horror. I've heard of it. I've heard good things about it. Have not played it, so I can't comment on it. It's one of those I will eventually make it to, I'm sure. I want to give it a go. Yeah. Metroid Prime 2002. So Metroid games and myself have a love-hate relationship. I was not a fan of Metroid Prime, to be honest with you. The first Metroid on the NES, I played a lot. And I remember the first time I beat it was with the use of a Game Genie, so not really fair. I have gone back, played through it since. Love the first Metroid. We will talk about some other Metroid down the line. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the Metroid Prime. I don't know. At 2002, I was on to bigger and better things at that time. How can you say bigger and better than Metroid? In my mind, there was other stuff to be played out there. I was really into the PC games at this time and kind of had let the consoles go to the wayside. So I didn't. This is a game I dabbled in, but I never spent that much time on. Can't comment too much on Metroid Prime. 32, Resident Evil 4. Love Resident Evil 4. I do have an article on my top 5 gaming moments of all time, and the first 10 minutes, it was a tie. I cheated a little bit, but I used Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 1, the first 10 minutes of both games. This is a game I could bring my horror-loving movie fan friends over and show them this game, and they would get into and be like, holy shit, this is amazing. This is what gaming is these days. I love the Spanish setting and the grittiness, and just it feels like, the first Resident Evil feels like classic zombies, so it feels like we're in the Romero days. Resident Evil 4 brings it to the modern times, gives it that gritty. Are they zombies? Is it a virus? Are they mad? What's going on with these people? Love that. 31, The Witcher 3, a game I have just downloaded. I have not actually fired it up yet. I just purchased this game. I'm very much looking forward to getting into it. I've heard nothing but good things. I have not ventured into the Witcher world. Again, 2015, I was still playing some Skyrim for my open world, and Grand Theft Auto 5 was out at that time, and just did not have time to put into The Witcher 3, but I've purchased it, and I am very much looking forward to it. Maybe we'll get a video on The Witcher coming shortly on this channel. 30, I am glad it's here as well, Metal Gear Solid. This game, I had non-gaming friends playing this game. I grew up playing Metal Gear, the original Metal Gear, and getting frustrated to hell. This game took those ideas and made it playable in a beautiful fashion. Still, probably my top gaming moment of all time. Psycho Mantis is in this game. Revolver Ocelot, all of the bad guys, all of the everything about this game is so good. I cannot recommend it enough. If you've never played Metal Gear Solid, please do yourself a favor and go play it. Whatever you have to do, emulate it, get it on whatever. I don't know what's a means to do it if it's available on the PlayStation Store. Great game. I cannot speak highly enough about this. Hideo Kojima knows exactly what he's doing when it comes to gaming, and this game is just sweetness. 29, we get another Mario game, our second on the list. We had Odyssey earlier, and now Super Mario Galaxy at 29. This is a Mario game I skipped. This was on the Wii, I believe, or the Wii U, which I had both systems. I never played Super Mario Galaxy. That is a treasure trove I will still go back to. Look, Nintendo almost always delivers, so I can only imagine that this is an amazing game, and I will revisit it at some point. I just have to. I love playing Mario games. one of these days when I get the itch, I will go back and enjoy some Mario Galaxy, because obviously it's worth a shot. Need to visit that. All right, 28 is Shadow of the Colossus. Great game. I played through this when it came out. This game, one word, scale. It gives you scale. A lot of games, they have big bosses. And God of War is another game that gives you good scale, but Shadow of the Colossus really made you feel the scale of the enemies and the weight that they carried with them. Great game. Loved it. This came out right around the same time as Ico, and they were kind of similar, these new pretty games. Just it made you feel small, and it made you, each Colossus with its own puzzle, each Colossi with its own puzzle to overcome and discover. Another game coming up soon, the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, is another game that captures that scale with the machines, the beasts. This game kind of showed us what 3D console gaming could do with scale. So 28 on the list, I'm fine with that. This is an art house game, a work of art, and is just beautiful to behold. 27, BioShock. Another great first-person shooter. I loved BioShock. I have yet to play BioShock 2 or BioShock, was it Infinite, I believe. I actually own BioShock Infinite. I haven't yet played it. This first game I played all the way through. Such a cool, dark, disturbing, twisted game. The whole underwater world of Rapture is so well done. BioShock belongs on the list, absolutely. Worth replaying if you haven't played it recently. Great story, great gameplay mechanics, just really, really fun. Speaking of Breath of the Wild, 26 on the list. My wife is playing Breath of the Wild as we speak in the other room. It is... is it the best Zelda game? Probably. As far as gameplay goes, maybe not as far as nostalgia or history goes. People will. My personal favorite is probably A Link to the Past, to be honest with you. I am a huge fan of Zelda 2 as well, though. A Link to the Past. Boy, it's so tough to pick one over the other because they're very distinct in their own ways. But as far as modern gaming goes, this is one of the most fun I've had with a game in recent years. It really is fun. It's beautiful. It's a joy to behold this game. I really have enjoyed playing through it. I have not finished it. My wife is actually closer to finishing it than I am. She's actually going for like the 100%. She's almost got all of the shrines found, and playing right through it. So I can't speak highly enough about Breath of the Wild. The Switch seller, and worth buying a Switch for this game alone. Switch is worth buying for a lot of reasons, but initially this was the main reason for buying it. Absolutely, and it made it worth every penny. 25. This is another pick'em. Sid Meier's Civilization 4. 3 was great, 5 was great, 2 was great, 1 was great, 6 was great. Sid Meier's is the man. One of my other favorite games of all time that people forget about, Covert Action, Pirates. He made such good, in-depth, quality games that just made you think outside the box. And Civilization, I was a huge fan of SimCity, and now to create an entire civilization instead of just a city. Oh man, these games were summer suckers. Like I talk about quarter suckers in the arcade, these were summer suckers, or 6 month. You would pop this game on. I couldn't turn on my computer without diving into one of these. Like, if I had it installed and in the middle of a game, it doesn't matter what else I wanted to play or thought about, this is what consumed me at that time. So I have no problem with 4 being on the list. You can pick your favorite as you'd like. Holy moly, what can be said about Civ? They're the best. Best simulations ever, in my opinion. Yes, yeah. All right, 24 Minecraft. Again, this is part of the younger generation of gamers. I have never honestly fired up Minecraft at all. I understand it has its place. They're using it in the classroom for teaching purposes. It really does break down boundaries and spans all, anybody who plays it has enjoyed it from what I can tell. I have not opened that can of worms yet for myself, so we will move along. 23, Halo 2, Halo 1. Again, I'd say more for the significance and the importance. This was yet another one of those games, like I mentioned earlier with GoldenEye, that really showed console gamers, hey, first-person shooters are a genre and they're awesome. Of course, now they dominate the console market. I remember when Halo, even before it came out, the talk about it, high altitude, low opening. It was supposed to be a military style game. Then it turned to Master Chief with the alien battles. I'm not a fan of the Halo series myself. I understand people will call that blasphemy. I felt, especially Halo 1, was fighting the same sprites over and over again. They just changed their colors, fighting the same enemies. Halo 2 seemed to do that too. Look, I understand the importance and that it got a lot of people into first-person shooters and gaming. Not for me, though. Not for me. Now, here is a first-person shooter that I can get behind all the way. Half-Life and Half-Life 2. This is the original Half-Life, 1998 at number 22 here. It changed storytelling in games, an immersion in games, and it brought Valve onto the scene. If it wasn't for Half-Life, would we have Steam today? Maybe not. I mean, it not only launched Half-Life, but it launched the whole company that is Valve, and yeah, great game. Immersion, storytelling, first-person shooter, beautiful stuff. Number 21, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. Personally, I prefer 1 and 2 over 3. This was a great game as well. I don't know, maybe by this time I was a little bit kind of over Metal Gear games. I don't know. 1 and 2, I would put higher on the list myself personally, but 3, a lot of people liked it. It the graphics were better, the gameplay was a little more refined. I still prefer 1 and 2. So this game seemed like it was really quick. I remember playing through it, and then it ended, and I was like, "Is that it? Shouldn't there be more?" But that is just my personal opinion. Number 20, Last of Us, a game I own, I've purchased. I have yet to play through it. I've started it. I've gotten into it a little bit. It is amazing. I can't recommend it highly enough. It's beautiful. It's storytelling. It feels real and gritty and alive. But for some reason, I've not been able to sit down and commit to it all the way. So this is a game that I'll have to revisit to finish. I really want to play it. I'm very excited to play it, but just haven't not dedicated the time to it yet. 19, Doom. Well, I've talked a lot about first-person shooters and how there's been different iterations and generations and evolutions. My first-person shooter was not Doom. A lot of people's it was. I did play Wolfenstein 3D prior to getting Doom. Wolfenstein 3D was awesome, but then I remember going to the same cousin who had XCOM, had Doom, and playing Doom for the first time and just being like, holy shit, demon hunting is what I want to do for a living. Doom is amazing. Um, I've played the new Doom. I've played the Doom, what is it, Doom 3. I love Doom. Great series. Something about slaying demons is so satisfying. Yeah, I will always have fond memories of Doom. 19 on the list. Well worth it. Well deserved. 18, Chrono Trigger. This is another game that I actually did not play back in the day. I was not in 95 when it came out on the Super Nintendo. I was not... I was a huge gamer at that time, but Chrono Trigger flew under my radar for some reason. I went back probably 10 years after that and played through it. Amazing. It really does blend, all the great elements of an RPG together. And Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger are a couple of my favorite RPGs of all time. So 18 on the list, again, well deserved. Number 17, Grand Theft Auto 5. I mean, honestly, this game could be a top 10 easy. I absolutely adore this game. I think it is so much fun. The characters in it are great. The city, the layout is amazing. Rockstar rarely disappoints, so going into it that it's going to be just spectacular, and it is. It lives up to all the hype. So good job with Grand Theft Auto 5 being on the list. Well deserving of the 17th spot, absolutely. 16, game I have not played and have kind of avoided on purpose due to its notorious play style. So Dark Souls at number 16, notoriously hard. Not that I avoid hard games by any means. I don't like to be frustrated with games, and I know this game is frustratingly hard, and as much as I would love this game, I'm sure, I have yet to play it. I've actually downloaded Dark Souls 2 on my Xbox One, I believe it is. I think it's on my Xbox. I have it. I'm just hesitating. I'm putting it off. I will play it eventually. I'm not looking forward to being stuck. That's the bottom line with Dark Souls. All right, number 15, Street Fighter 2, arcade, 1991. A lot of people will remember this, of course, from the Super Nintendo release. We will jump back onto my top 5 of all time list. Right there at number 5, Street Fighter 2, arcade and NES. Again, this is my list I wrote 6 years ago. I had Street Fighter 2 as my number 5 game of all time, and they have it at number 15 of all time on their list at IGN. This was the arcade game to end all arcade games. This is the one that got us battling each other. This was the first game where you would stack the quarters. There'd be 6-7 quarters at my local 7-Eleven. There's 2 arcade games and 15 kids all trying to peek over each other's shoulders to see who's winning and who's fighting. And you'd slap your quarter up there and wait for that to come up so you could get in there and hopefully take over the machine and win a few fights. The characters are so memorable. They live on today. There was the Van Damme movie. There was so much from this game, but the nostalgia of going into the arcade and fighting each other, mano a mano, Blanca versus Chun-Li, Ryu versus Ken, it doesn't matter. There's so many. Everybody could win. You could win with Dalsum. You could win with E Honda. Everybody had their own strengths. Who was your best fighter? Mine was this guy. I was always partial to Ken and Ryu, but I also really thought Guile was fantastic as well. So, boy, and I love Chun-Li, and I even got good with Zangief there for a bit, doing the 360 pile driver, spinning that button around, spinning the joystick and hitting all 3 buttons at the same time to do the pile driver for Zangief. Now, such good memories, such a good game. 15, I put it higher, but 15 is well deserved. Number 14, Super Mario Brothers 1, the original, the game that started platforming, the game that launched the NES into the stratosphere, the game that showed everybody gaming was more than Atari sprites, it was more than Pac-Man, it was more than Galaga. We can have a little bit of a story, and we can mix these perfect, seamless platforming elements into a game. And I remember the night I received Super Mario Brothers. It was the night I received my NES. I believe it was Christmas of 85 or 86. It was one of those 2 years, but I want to say it was Christmas of 86 I received it. I stayed up all night. Everybody had gone to bed. It was the only game I had for the system that night, and I played it all night long, and I was just in awe. Like, I was an Atari kid, for years before that. I played Atari games, and I loved Atari. I played so much Atari, and now I had a Nintendo, and I had Super Mario Brothers, and boy, that was a mind-blowing thing. There was Super Mario Brothers was released in the arcade, and I remember going down to one of my local arcades, Peter Piper Pizza, and I remember specifically this game, and for this reason, it wasn't me playing, but I remember going in, and there was a guy sitting on a bar stool playing Super Mario Brothers, and just watching him and being in awe of this game. And that bastard, he had a straw, and he had flattened that straw out, and when he died, he would stick that straw into the coin slot, and I remember him fidgeting and getting credits, and then continuing with that. So that's a Super Mario Brothers memory that's just always stuck with me. Funny how those things do, but 14 could be higher. 13, the original Halo. I've given you my thoughts on Halo. Again, it brought the genre to the masses. It showed everybody consoles can do first-person shooters. Again, I felt like I fought the same 4 enemies throughout the entirety of the game. Not for me. See, in 2001, a lot of console gamers outside of, say, GoldenEye haven't played many first-person shooters. I'd been playing them for 10 years, with Wolfenstein and Doom, and then Counter-Strike and games like that. I was kind of a PC snob at this point in 2001. Deus Ex was out. Counter-Strike was out. Unreal was out, and I was just like, what? Halo? Really? Look at what Soldier of Fortune was out. I was playing these games on the PC, and Halo just seemed like a kid's toy. So 13, in some people's minds, absolutely not in mine. This is it. Number 12, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Possibly one of the best series of all times in the Castlevania series. In my estimation, one of the best games, absolutely. If we go back to my list here, number 3 of my all-time greatest games, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I had it listed for the PS2. It was originally for the PlayStation. 97 was the release date. Holy moly. I remember when it came out, I was a little hesitant to pick it up, and then my roommate picked it up one night. I was like, boy, Castlevania 1, 2, and 3, they were hard games. Super Castlevania was sure amazing. What could they really do with that series? What could they possibly do to make that game better? Well, holy shit, they did everything better. They added the RPG elements. They added music. They added these... The castle was so amazingly well made, the map of the castle. And then when you finished it properly, it flipped upside down, and you had to go back through it again to properly beat the game. Dracula as a nemesis, how cool is that? Death is in the game. All of your favorite monsters. Shit. If you've never played Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and you have any interest at all, or even if you don't, please go play this game. It truly is spectacular. I have it at number 3. Honestly, I could, depending on the day, it may be number 1 for me in some areas. Possibly. Number 11, Portal 2. Now, again, this is a a masterpiece in most people's eyes. This is Valve, Half-Life 2, Half-Life 1. They do amazing work. I have yet to play Portal, any of them, so I can't speak to that. I need to rectify that. From everything I've heard, from everybody I've talked to, it's short, it's well worth playing, truly mind-boggling games. I will visit both Portal 1 and Portal 2 and spend some more time, and maybe do a video on those down the road, but just have not found the time to put those all together. Number 10, getting into the nitty-gritty now, the top 10. Top 10, Mario 64. Great game. I don't know, there's not a whole lot more I can say about Mario 64 that hasn't already been said. I spent a lot of time in Mario 64. I finished Mario 64. I love Mario 64. It deserves a top. Is it a top 10 game? Probably not on my estimation. I would say I enjoyed. It's probably my third or fourth favorite Mario game. So top 10 is tough, but I can see why it's there. I can see why it's there. Number 9, Red Dead Redemption. I love Red Dead Redemption. Once again, Rockstar rarely disappoints. Red Dead Redemption is truly fantastic, but Red Dead Redemption 2, in my estimate, is a better game. If you want to put Red Dead on the list, that's fine. I would put Red Dead Redemption 2 on the list above Red Dead myself. Both great games. Rockstar, keep up the fine work. Number 8, Half-Life 2. Many people's number one game of all time, and deservedly so. It took the immersion and the storytelling and the gameplay of the first Half-Life and just went times 10 with it. Half-Life 2, please play it if you've never played it. You can pick it up for cheap on Steam these days, and it can be a life-altering experience. There's amazing speedruns on it. There is so much out there on Half-Life 2. I suggest you go watch a few YouTube videos, and this game will suck you in. Number 7, Tetris. I played the shit out of Tetris. I got it on my Game Boy when I was a kid. I played Tetris all the time. I still play it. I've got it on my Switch, the Tetris 99. I think it's a fantastic platform for it. I love the competitive elements of knocking each other out and trying to win in the top tier. But I love just good old traditional Tetris. I really think it's the best puzzle game of all time. Number 6, Super Mario Bros. 3. Days, years spent on this game by me, playing it with my cousins, playing it solo, playing it with friends. When I first saw Super Mario Bros. 3, I wasn't playing it. I went to a friend's birthday party who had received it, and him and his brother were playing it, and I was sitting like in the crowd of the birthday party watching it, and I remember looking at my buddy and saying, "That's my favorite game of all time." And he said, "Mine too." And we hadn't even touched a controller yet. That's how good this game is and was. Not to mention the marketing, the wizard, everything that surrounded Super Mario Bros. 3, the history of Mario Bros. 1 and 2, and the legacy that it maintains today. If it's not top 5, number 6 is a deserved spot for Super Mario Bros. 3. All right, number 5 on the list is my favorite Zelda game. Again, it's a toss-up between... Now, I mean, this and Breath of the Wild are very close, but I think A Link to the Past is the superior game because it holds the nostalgia for me. It's such a beautiful, fun, quirky, great game. Worth the NES or Super NES Classic alone just to play through A Link to the Past. Yeah, I love this game. I adore Link to the Past. Number 4, my favorite Metroid game of all time. However, I do lean towards Super Castlevania as well as Symphony of the Night as better games in my opinion for the Metroidvania style of game. This game is amazing, don't get me wrong, and it's awesome that they built off of the first Metroid game, but this game is a top 25 for me, top 35 for me, but definitely worth playing, worth checking out. Great game. I liked the atmosphere and the feel of the Castlevania series better. Just my opinion. Number 3, Portal. Again, I've mentioned it earlier. I missed the boat on this one. I need to play this. I need to revisit it. It's the number 3 game on their list of all time, and I've never even picked it up. So I need to visit Portal, and we'll see what comes of that. Number 2, another Zelda game, The Ocarina of Time. Now, this is a lot of people's favorite Zelda game, and it was a great game, don't get me wrong. I personally, Link to the Past and Breath of the Wild, just a little bit better. Ocarina of Time was a little clunky. I felt like I got stuck in some of those dungeons forever. I still remember some of those epic battles of Ganondorf coming through the paintings, and just some of the mind-blowing discoveries you make and revelations in this game are so good. But it's my 3rd favorite Zelda game of all time, so it's very hard to justify it as number 2 on the list. But it is from that golden age of gaming from the late 90s, and I can see why people do love it and why it would make number 2. It's just not my number 2. And number 1, you could probably guess it if you haven't already, but as soon as where's number 1? There it is. Number 1, Super Mario World. Is it the greatest game of all time? That's tough. It's not my favorite game of all time. If you go to my list, my number 1 game of all time is Baldur's Gate. The only one that I chose that's not on this list was Ultima Online, for the sake that it started MMOs. It really started the genre. Lord British. Anyway, that's a video for another time. Let's talk about Super Mario World. The amount of secrets, the amount of everything in this game, how each level built off of the last, the new power-ups, the new abilities. It's a beautiful game. This is definitely one of my top 10 of all time. Definitely a game I put so much time into. When I got my Super Nintendo and this came packaged in there, it was all you needed. I had Pilot Wings as well, but Pilot Wings got dust on it because Super Mario World was really all you needed back then. It's tough to beat. It is tough to beat. It's not in my top 5, but I understand why it's people's number 1. See, I can't even say it's the best platformer of all time because I'd give that to Symphony of the Night. But as far as Mario games go, it probably is the best Mario game. Mario 3 was fantastic. Super Mario World just took Mario 3 and was like, let's take the overworld map. We'll take all the good stuff we've done with 3. We'll give it the 16-bit treatment, and boom, here we go. Super Mario World, absolutely wonderful game. Worth the price of admission for the Super Nintendo by all means. So if you haven't played it, you absolutely owe it to yourself as a gamer to play Super Mario World. Just explore the world, just to find the secrets and the different ways you can get to different worlds and through the game. Holy moly, this was it. Super Mario World, number 1. So anyway, guys, that is the top 100 IGN games of all time. Check out part 1 if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, that's amazing. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. We really appreciate it. We're going to have a lot of gaming content, a lot of movie content. We're 8-Bit Goonies. We're here about the nostalgia fun. We're going to keep it coming to you all the time, straight from Southern Australia. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll talk soon.